Good evening and welcome to Expat Radio. This is Carl Wilder with Natasha Cohn, and we are
Good
talking
evening.
about all things expat. What is on your mind this evening?
Well, I was talking with someone about. I know we don't talk politics on this show, but
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
this is something we will agree with uh, for for once, and that is the state of politics in the world today is slightly unsettling, to put it mildly, or at least no,
Slightly
not the
unsettling. That's beyond mildly. That's barely putting it at all. It is profoundly disturbing, and the level of open corruption is beyond words.
In a sense, I don't mind corruption. If corruption was the only problem, I would be happy, you know. Um, but whether I look at South America, North America, um, Europe, I can't think of a country. Well, maybe Scandinavia is okay right now. And
Iceland, Finland, I think Spain is decent at the moment.
yeah, exactly. It's hard to actually pinpoint the number of countries that are decent right now. And I've been noticing on British television a lot more ads for joining the Army, Navy, blah, blah, on British television.
Yeah, US television has the same thing, I hear. It is, I think the oligarchs want very desperately World War III, which is why all of these provocations are going on all over the place. You know, they want World War III. They want to take Russia and get its resources because they've exploited so many other countries. And I think that's what's happening right now.
Well, at this point in time, with what different people are saying, I am not entirely sure which way Europe would go in a war with or against.
If they were smart, they would align with Russia because we're right there. You know, because both sides are always wrong in war, in my opinion. There's no right
Yes.
side in war. So you pick the one that's going to be the one that is the most politically expedient for you. Germany needs natural gas. Russia has natural gas. If Germany aligns with Russia, the pipeline will be rebuilt and Germany will once again have a booming economy.
Yes, but that would be at the cost of Germany becoming going behind the wall again.
There is no wall anymore. I have been to Russia many times. It is a very free and open society. In fact, I would say there's more freedom in Russia right now than there is in the US.
What happens if you openly state you're against the government or the war in Russia?
Then you state you're against the government of the war. I have friends that I'm in touch with, including Iraq and St. Petersburg. He stated it on Facebook. He stated it on Twitter. Nothing happens.
Okay. Doesn't happen in newsrooms. In newsrooms, they disappear.
Well, newsrooms, people are disappearing all over the world. I mean, the number of journalists that have been killed in Palestine, in the USA, they have mysterious suicides. They get close to a story and they're suicided. I mean, it's really common to kill journalists, and unfortunately has been for quite a long time.
So, anyway, I didn't want to get into politics. I was just stating that at this point in time, I'm starting to get worried.
I have been worried pretty much since I left the US because I saw a lot of this coming. And I think everybody should be on alert. We are in foreign countries, in a sense. We were not born in the countries that we're living in, and we have to always be on guard. And I hate to think of fleeing Berlin. My thought about Berlin was they will never get involved with another war. They learned their lesson. They couldn't possibly ever have anything to do with another world war. And I realized I was wrong.
They may not have a choice.
Right.
But you talk about not being in your own country and having to flee Berlin, which is, of course, something I've considered many, many a time. But I'm French. So going back to my country of origin would be to flee to France, which, frankly, if Germany's in trouble, France isn't that far behind. So if I were to flee Berlin because of an upcoming war, I definitely would not go to France.
I would go to Sweden or Portugal, because Sweden and Portugal managed to stay out of war very successfully. As you know, Portugal never got involved in World War II or World War I. They're sort of out here, and that would be my choice. I might be wrong. They could get involved, but
they might not have a choice either, for that matter.
We don't know who's going to have a choice. And
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with talking about this, because it's on the minds of expats from all over the world. I attend social events and talk to people, and everybody's talking about, what do we do if these monsters that are in our political systems create a world war? How will we go on?
Well, I've been thinking of Chile or New Zealand.
Argentina.
Yeah, I didn't like Argentina's involvement in the last war.
Well, neither did I, but I have a passport there.
So yeah, but I was thinking of Chile or New Zealand. I felt.
Well, New Zealand, I don't know. Yeah, they're pretty remote, and Chile, I think, would be a better idea than New Zealand.
Yeah, the thing that disturbed me with Chile is if we start talking big bombs, they have a whole row of volcanoes.
Yeah.
And that could be an issue.
That could be an issue. The fact is, we have to see how it plays out before we know what moves we can or should make. And we don't know how it's all going to play out.
No,
it is my hope that there's enough people understanding what's going on and putting pressure on politicians all over the world to forestall any, psychopathic idiocy. I mean, I take hope in the resignation of Justin Trudeau, because he was forced out by the people of Canada. They really would not abide him, and he was one of the globalists who was pushing towards war. And Canadians said, no, 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 no. And he's gone, and that's a relief.
Okay. Is he gone because Trump wants to buy Canada?
That's just Trump talk. Trump talks. I don't listen. Trump wants to buy Canada. He wants Greenland. He's talking Mexico now. My experience with Trump is that when he makes these big, stupid public pronouncements, and he does it often, that means he's doing something else. He's like a magician. Here's the distraction. Everybody talk about my tweet. Everybody talk about my speech while I'm doing this.
That's exactly what I said yesterday. I said, it sounds very much like he's asking for a pony.
Yeah, something is going on that we're not seeing. This is what he wants us to see. He is a magician, and he is a master at manipulating the media and using the public square to distract people. I remember all of his tweets. I actually went through his Twitter history to see if any of them happened. None of them happened. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. But something else happened while everyone was discussing that. So I don't think there's any plan to buy Canada or Greenland or Mexico or any of that other nonsense. I think it's just another one of his distractions, which is his thing. He likes distracting people.
Yeah, he asked for
He
a
likes
pony so
attention.
that, yeah, so he asked for a pony, so we'll give him a dog.
Exactly. Can I have a pony?
Yeah, no.
No, I
Okay,
have the dog for me.
I don't want to be mean, okay, but you already have a dog, and apparently you're looking for chickens.
I'm not looking for chickens, but I was thinking along the same lines you were. What do we do if there are food shortages created? And would it be possible to keep chickens on a terrace in Berlin?
Um, Only if you expect them to be fried chicken pretty soon.
Actually, legally, yeah, they'd have to break into my apartment and get onto I mean, it would be really hard to do that. And the laying varieties are not necessarily the best eating. They're usually used in pet food. So I'm not terribly worried about that. But
No,
one of my neighbors,
I was thinking about nuclear bombs.
okay. One of my neighbors saw the post, and he is actually on the condo association. I rent a condo, and he's talking to the management about putting in a chicken coop outdoors. We have a huge yard connected to the two buildings, and putting a chicken coop outdoors for the benefit of everyone, which I think is a great idea.
It would be a great idea until you have a tenant who's not very nice and he starts killing the chickens. So, yeah.
If you have a tenant that's not very nice and starts killing the chickens. But I think most people are intelligent enough to know that if the chickens are providing eggs, you don't kill the chickens.
Yeah, I wish most people were that intelligent. That would be lovely. But then again, it would kind of spoil our amusement when we read some of the things people ask or say.
There's a whole news collection called Florida Man, because you've read that many times in headlines. Florida man, Florida man, Florida man wrestles with alligator and loses. Florida man walks into grocery store with duck on leash. Florida man. I don't know what is going on in Florida, but that's a very, very common thing. So if we stay out of Florida, I think we're going to be okay.
I wish, honestly, I wish. I mean, there's been some comments that I've actually heard here in England that made me doubt our ability. I mean, humans' ability in general. No, I'm afraid we go back to what we were talking about a few times ago, and that is the intelligence of humans and
Yeah, it's
how
not any
there's,
high,
yeah,
I have to say. And the American school system has gotten so incredibly dreadful over the years. I'm fortunate that I had a mother who taught me how to read before I ever got to kindergarten. So while they're going A, B, C, D, E, I was sitting in the back reading books, and then I got, bumped up, etc. My mother was not a highly educated woman, but she was a highly intelligent woman, and she did what intelligent people did at the time who did not have the benefit of higher education, and she read her education, just like Abraham Lincoln read the law in order to become an attorney. So my mother did all of that and encouraged that in us, including a wide diversity of interests. As you know, food is my prevailing interest, but I studied history. I read all of these things. Libraries were my refuge and my solace, and I absolutely loved them. And I was always allowed to go to the library. That
yeah.
was never a question. So, I got lucky because the schools I went to, even then, were not very good. I remember reading all of the books that were footnoted in my history book and taking a history class with Mr. Frick and asking him a question that wasn't in the textbook. He couldn't answer it. I said,
Yeah,
"Didn't you read any of the source materials or reference books?" No. I said, well, I read them all. And I was soon out of that class because he didn't like being challenged. Well, let's just stick to what's in the book.
Yes, indeed. Without questioning.
I mean, as early as first grade, I remember telling my classmates that George Washington's teeth were not made out of wood, but that he had the teeth of slaves pulled out of their mouths in order to create his dentures. They were in shock. They didn't believe me. I had someone contact me on Facebook recently from first grade saying, I now know you were right about George, remembering it all those years, that I'd said that and the teacher said I was wrong.
Yes. Well, I mean, we all know that he always told the truth, and his teeth were made out of wood.
Yeah. So even then, school textbooks had a lot of propaganda and lies. America was always right. America was always the best. America was always the freest. Betsy Ross, was practically a saint. I mean, we learned a lot of nonsense, but I was fortunate not to learn it, but to go beyond that and find the truth.
Like a Yosemite ranger apparently said, the overlap between the intelligence of bears and the stupidity of man is quite impressive in terms of creating a bear safe rubbish place.
Yeah.
Yes.
People aren't very smart around bears at all.
Or, I mean, how many videos do you see of people actually coming out of a car and walking towards a bear in the street in Canada or in the Rockies or something? Yes.
And
Personally, I think it's a great idea because I am a total fan of the Darwin Awards.
well, you know who's getting the #1 Darwin Award these days? Social media influencers trying to get those impossible to get shots. They're falling off cliffs. They're falling into that. Yosemite has that hot spring. Someone recently fell into that, trying to, show that they could get real close and leaning back. The whole thing was on video. Dead.
And then there were two influencers in Brazil who didn't want to wear life jackets on the boat because it would affect their tan lines, and they drowned.
Yep. Influencers has got to be among the stupidest class on earth. And there was a recent study that came out of Dubai looking at how most of these influencers are getting their income, because they like to go through, multiple changes of clothes, and they'll go somewhere for a day and take lots and lots of pictures. Most of them are working as prostitutes.
Well, I have to say, in all honesty, that I have nothing against prostitutes, and I think they provide a lovely service.
I have nothing against prostitutes either, but if you're worshiping these people and thinking they're something they're not, realize what they really are. They are people that are struggling to make a living and trying to sell you a lavish lifestyle that even they cannot afford.
Oh, absolutely. But no, I've always felt, I mean, one of my favorite films is The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
I love that movie.
Which, of course, is based on a true story. The closing down of the chicken farm. But Chicken Ranch, sorry, dear. Yes. But yeah, I'm glad to see that actually I once saw a documentary on prostitutes in the United States. And when I say prostitutes in the United States, I don't mean the ones standing in the corners of New York, but the ones in chicken ranches. And they have property portfolios. They're doing extremely well. And I think that's great.
Many, 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 many years ago, when I was visiting Rome, or not visiting Rome, I was actually working there and cooking in a restaurant. And I had a day off, and I went to Napoli for the day. And I had pizza. I had the same meal twice. It was so good. So I had a pizza margherita with a glass of wine, with a little bit of salad, which was the meal of the day, followed by a margherita pizza with a glass of wine and a little salad. I think I was 19 or something, 20, maybe. And I got on a train going back to Rome and fell asleep. But my housing in Rome was with a group of priest wannabes. So they're studying for the priesthood and doing all of this. And I had, because Maria knew Mario and Mario ran this, I was able to get a room there. It was kind of like a little prison cell with a twin bed, but it was fine. There was a communal kitchen, and sometimes I would do the cooking. But you could not get in after midnight. The front door would be locked with a heavy metal skeleton key. That was it. Between midnight and 6:30 a.m., there was no admittance, and I was after midnight. So I went to by the train station, the first place I saw that, a pensione, went up to the second or third floor, asked for a room, and he said, "You don't like it?" I said, "Do you have one?" "You don't like it." "I need a place to stay the night. It's cold." "You don't like it?" I said, "May I have it anyway?" I thought he was warning me about bed bugs, but the fact was all of his rooms were rented by call girls, and they shared a communal phone, and, this is for you, this is for you, this is for you. And I did like it. And I asked them about pasta puttanesca, which they made for me on a hot plate in one of the girls' rooms, because I asked about it. And I was talking to them because many of them spoke English among other languages. They had to for their business. So some Spanish, some English, etc. And I asked for the real story of pasta puttanesca, because, there's legends. They would put bowls of it on the windowsill to attract clients. And I thought, why would garlic attract a client to a prostitute? Doesn't make any sense. They go, "No, we tell you the truth. It's to get the taste of the men out of our mouths at the end of the night."
Fair enough.
And I thought that was probably the only honest answer about the legend of pasta puttanesca. But among them were, I think, 3 medical students. It was a whole compendium of women putting themselves through life this way. Was this their goal? No. This was what they were doing while they were young, and they could, in order to have a future that they couldn't have, because Italy at the time didn't have enormous opportunities for anyone. And women, were always second class, and still are in some parts of Italy. So they were making the best of what they had and creating a future for themselves. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And so I had a great time with these ladies, and I learned a lot that surprised me, because, in the US, you don't learn this or think this. It's many times what the image is, women who are controlled by pimps on the streets of New York in 1972, which was my entire experience of that, movies.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I think the documentary might have had something to do with the best little whorehouse in Texas, and prostitutes in places like Texas. And they were fine. They were making money hand over fist. And I thought, great. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they fall in the same category as providing a service.
Healthcare workers, sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm absolutely fine with it. I always have been. It's legal, of course, in Germany. I don't see it on the streets of Germany. Do you?
No, never.
Yeah, I think it's only in houses.
Yeah, and I have seen younger men hanging around Zoologischer Garten. I think they've cleared the area since, but that I did see. But that was something else. But no, making it legal seems so obvious. There's no question,
And you pay taxes and you get health insurance,
Yeah.
and that's a profession that I would definitely want health insurance in.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Absolutely. And it
uh,
stops them from being abused because they can report without fear of going to jail themselves.
right. And in the U.S., they can't report. If they report anything, then they go to jail. The Johns go free. Um, there was a
Yeah.
case in New York where there was a serial killer targeting prostitutes. And one of the women came forward because she got a good idea of the guy when he was taking away a woman who was killed. And so she went to the police. They arrested her. Did they make a sketch? No. Did they look for the killer? No. They arrested her for confessing to being on the street and witnessing this.
Yeah. And that's
We
crazy,
get
obviously.
that.
That's obviously crazy. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the way of the world. So if, and we don't know what's going to happen, but if there's enough pressure and enough resignations nationwide or worldwide of these psychopathic politicians, and we don't end up in a major war, what do you see 2025 as being like?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, it's very hard to say because we are, I believe, we are faced again with a complete unknown. Trump arriving in power is a complete unknown. It's, it's like throwing a fox in a hen house. Um, you really don't know. I mean, no, you throw a fox in a hen house, you know what's going to happen. I can tell from experience what's going to happen. Only one of my hens survived. But it is almost a blank canvas.
Yeah, it is kind of a blank canvas. What I know about his first 4 years is that despite the tweets, despite the controversy, despite the memes, he ended up doing very little. He signed a few executive orders um, to
Not many
undo,
of them went through, by the way.
I know, but he signed a few to undo things that were done by previous administration. And he watched himself on TV a lot. I know he gave a lot of interviews. He talked, he talked, he talked, he talked, he talked, but very little was done by his office.
Well, we can really, really only hope that 2.0 is the same thing, you know.
I hope it is as well. So far, I mean, he's 10 days from taking office. So far, all he has done is boviate.
I now more question what his adoptive son is going to be doing, i.e., Musk.
I, I follow Musk on Twitter because I'm interested in that. Um, Musk wants to cut government waste. And if, and this is always a big if he does that, um, then great. If he does more, he should not. It's not his purview. He's been appointed to look for waste, and there's so much government waste. In the past 50 years, they've added thousands of agencies, most of which do nothing. As a matter of fact, they found some where they, started having people work remotely, and no one's even responded to email or anything else. So they're not even working remotely. They're just collecting salaries. And that is one of the scientific agencies, supposedly. So I think if that's done and it's done well, then good for him. Um, Beyond that, he should not be functioning in the government because, he's if he gets an appointment, official appointment, to do what he says he wants to do and does that, then I'm okay with that.
Okay. So far, he's gone to the Italian government and commented about their way of doing things. He offered $100 million to Nigel Farage and then said he was a complete idiot. I disagree on the first, totally agree on the second, of course. He's now gone to the AFD to support them with a little bit of hope. He'll do the same thing he did with Nigel Farage. And, or what do we do if he starts funding the AFD? And I'm asking this not as a radio
I don't
co-host.
know.
I'm asking this as president of Ligra Germany. Because
I don't know. You know, I don't think he's going to. And it's interesting because one member of the AFD is very intelligent. Do you know Christine Anderson?
yes,
I'm trying to get her on the show so that we can talk to her directly. She's a highly intelligent woman, speaks several languages. So it's hard to know what they would do, and it's hard to know what he would do. So I don't want to make predictions about either. I do know that a highly intelligent person with a bad agenda is more dangerous than a stupid one.
yes, by definition, almost.
And I would really like to get, I'm saying this publicly in case you're listening, her people have promised to take a look at some shows. Christine Anderson, I would love to talk to you directly, face to face or camera to camera, as it were. And, let's talk, because expats are concerned about some of your ideas. Let's talk about them and find out, what do we have ground in common? We may have ground in common. Let's find out what that is. And if that's the case, how can we make things good for all parties? That's my message to her. Whether Elon Musk funds them, I mean, the biggest two interferers in US politics and politics worldwide have been George Soros and Bill Gates. Bill Gates donates to newspapers. Newspapers are not for profits. He doesn't donate to them. He buys coverage, essentially. He gave $391 million to the BBC last week. He's basically paying to have people not look at him too closely or criticize him too much. And George Soros has been interfering in politics for life.
My dad used to call the BBC the Bolshevik Broadcasting Company.
Okay.
Yes, that was, well, my dad's been dead for almost 10 years now, but he used to call the BBC the Bolshevik Broadcasting Company. So, yes, my dad did not have leftist views based on the fact that he escaped communist Yugoslavia by the skin of his teeth. So he wasn't terribly in favor of communism or any left-wing parties. But on the other hand, he was not at all right-wing. He talked a lot of nonsense for effect.
Right.
But he was completely tolerant, and not only tolerant, but not bothered by anything. He was he didn't bash anyone. He was, but he called the BBC the Bolshevik Broadcasting Company.
Well. The BBC, I have to say, I'm not going to defend their news coverage because I don't watch it, so I can't speak to that. They have, over the years, produced some incredibly good entertainment.
That they have. Oh, yeah. First to say that. Dad's Army being the top of my list. Faulty Towers is right behind.
I remember Faulty Towers. That was only 2 seasons. Did you realize that?
Yeah, I know.
And it's so brilliant.
Yeah, because he felt if he did, when I say he, I mean John Cleese felt that if he did any more, it would just go into nonsense, but every single episode is a gem. It's
Yeah, I rather treasure that show. I may give it a rewatch at some point. You know that they've turned it into, I don't know if it's a West End play or a West End musical, but Faulty Towers
yes,
is on stage.
I saw it when I was in London. No, I didn't see. I was just
You
walking
saw the
on.
adverts,
I saw the advert. I saw the sign at the theater
right?
when I was on Shaftesbury Avenue, because of course I'm now in Kingston upon Thames, which is near London. We leave to go back to Berlin on Sunday.
Okay.
So
I
next
got
week, yeah,
I got
next
little
week.
Milou approved to ride on the fast train between the two cities. So we will be able to go to London in May.
Oh, good. Oh, good, good, good.
Yeah, I had to send a lot of documentation and, it was not the easiest process. Now I have to get myself approved because I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have to do something now. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
ETA,
It's like the visa thing, like they have in the
right.
US, ESTA or something like that.
ETA, yeah. The problem I'm having is that no matter how many times or how many ways I photograph my passport, it tells me it's unacceptable. The bot just chimes in and rejects it. And I've had that problem before with bots. When I was trying to verify for Google AdWords for the business, the bot kept telling me that it wasn't good enough, wasn't good enough, wasn't good enough, wasn't good enough. I went on LinkedIn and I messaged all these people who worked for Google. And I said, I need a human to intervene. What's going on? And I finally got a response from this young guy in San Francisco. And he said, do it again and I'll be online and I'll watch it. And he was online and he watched it and he said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that photo. It means the exact standards that we require. I can see the bot's going to reject it. I'll manually override. So we did it together. And I had to be up very late because 9-hour time difference.
Exactly.
And he didn't start work at 8 in the morning. So,
Oh,
but
really?
he did it for me. And I really, really appreciate that. Bots are taking too much power in a lot of applications these days, and they're not very good yet.
No, I agree with you. I have the same problem. I got a phone number for Lycra. Okay, so
Good.
okay, so I have a phone number for Lycra and I got it from O2. I got it at the Media Markt. I went through every phone number they had available to try and find one that was relatively easy to remember. And I picked the best one. What I did was I selected like 12 different numbers and sent them to my daughter and her friend, Penelope's son. And I said, pick one, go through them and see which one you like the best. And they picked one. So I bought that one. And for some reason, when you buy a phone number in Germany, you have to be approved as the owner. That doesn't mean that they're not going to approve you, but it means that you have to have your passport and do the old passport and you thing. And apparently I tried too many times, and that was just before I left to come here. And now I have to wait until I get back to Berlin and go all the way to the post office to have it done so that O2 will accept me as the owner of that phone number. So much for cell numbers that you can get rid of like they do in the US,
Right. I mean, at least they have a human to intervene.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can go to the post office. Yeah, but now I
Right.
have
But
to
with the ETA, there is no human intervention.
exactly.
And they give you 2 tries and then they lock you out for 24 hours.
Oh, goody.
Yeah. So I'm locked out until this afternoon sometime when I can try again. But now I'm in Spanish school. So I will be in
Oh,
school
yes.
this. Yeah, my classes begin at 3 p.m. I may be a few minutes late today because I forgot it was Friday. Guys, we're recording it a little bit later than we normally do. We record on Friday morning for Monday night, but I was at the grocery store just walking through the aisle with little Milo when Natasha texted me and said, "Hey, I don't have my invite for the recording session yet." And I rushed out of there and got home. It was, there have been so many holidays, and this is this day, and this is this day, and now this happened, that I have completely lost track of the days of the week.
Oh, don't even go there. I mean, thank God my phone keeps telling me on the screen, the very first screen, what day we are, because I would have absolutely no idea. But
I just looked
I'm
at my
going to
phone. It should have told me.
I'm going to go back to what we were saying earlier about what we could do if the balloon went up, to use a phrase used during the Second World War. I would like to know what listeners are thinking about whether they think the balloon will go up and what they plan to do should the balloon go up. Should war start? Should things go slightly skew if in 2025, 2026? I would very, very much be interested in what listeners would do.
I would too. So give them the email address and they can write in and tell us if they've got a plan or an idea or anything. I would
Yes.
love to find out as well.
Especially if they happen to actually know if anything is going to happen. That
You know
would
what's
be
you know what's
so.
funny? I've been contacted more than once about this show. They never use the email address. They don't use the Facebook page. They find me on LinkedIn and send me a personal message.
Should we be on LinkedIn?
I think we should put a page on LinkedIn.
I think we should put a page on LinkedIn. I mean, we have a YouTube channel, which is Expat Radio, Free Expat. Oh, come on, Natasha. You can
Free
do better
Range
than that.
Radio Berlin.
Berlin. Free Range Radio Berlin.
Radio
Yes.
Berlin. And there
That's our
are
YouTube.
5 shows up there now. Oh, interesting.
The email is Free Range Expat. So that's 2 E's in a row. freerangeexpat@gmail.com. So by all means, contact us on freerangeexpat@gmail.com. And first of all, you can ask us anything. We will look for it and answer it. And second of all, tell us your view. What do you think will happen in 2025, 2026, or even later? Or maybe you know something we don't. So by all means.
Well, I have a friend who's a talking head at ABC. So he does news broadcasts and some morning show and a number of other things there. And a friend of mine and an acquaintance of his, Richard Cohn, died. I don't know if you know who he is. He was the spouse of Meredith Vieira, who was a talking head on television. She was on a TV show called The View for a while. And I knew Richard from the gym, and he had a lot of health conditions. But he showed up with sense of humor and tact. He was like a ray of sunshine in my day. And I wanted to send Meredith a letter because this is a really hard time for her. They've been married for a lot of years. They have 3 kids.
Obviously.
I know what that feels like. And so I wanted to send her a letter. So I reached out and I said, what do you think is going to happen? And he said, I think that the U.S. is going to go down. One way or another, the U.S. is going to go down. The world will unite against us. And you're in the right place.
In the right place by being in Berlin? or by
by being
being
in
in
Spain.
Europe?
By being in Spain.
In Spain, not in Europe, or
Well, he's I don't know if he knew I was in Spain specifically. He knows I live in Berlin, but he said you're in the right place.
hmm. Well,
And
from
and they
his lips
often
to
tourists
God's ears.
often know or predict things that they can't share, completely. And my friend Michael, who used to work for the Pentagon, said the same thing when I was talking to him about leaving the U.S. He said, "Go to Berlin."
Uh, I have to say, as you know, that I adore Berlin. I
We
mean,
both do.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're marginally less fond of the winters in Berlin.
Yeah, but that's weather. That's not the city itself.
I, on the other hand, think that the winters in Berlin are not quite as cold as they should be.
I know you've said that before, and I think you're absolutely insane. I'm going to check the weather there today.
Well, the weather there today is just fine. I think it's -2, -3, maybe a little bit colder. There's snow everywhere. Unfortunately, we're not there now. And by the time we get back next week, it's back to 4, 5, 6 degrees, which is
It's
nonsense.
1 degree there. It's 12, and it's snowing. You're right. It's 12 degrees in Seville, and I have been shivering all day.
And this morning, this morning, an hour ago here, it was -3. Then it went up to -2. I'm looking at the car park across from me, and it still has a coat of frost on the ground. And I've been staring at this building, this block of flats, because the roof is white, except for this one bit where the roof is completely not white at all, which means, of course, that it's seriously heated from the inside. And I do believe that's how the police found somebody was growing illegal substances. And so
Is that still illegal in England?
yes, in England it is, yes.
Okay. Spain and Germany have legalized it.
Yes, logically, the way they should, of course. My daughter mentioned that they should forbid alcohol, and I said no. We did it once, didn't
It
work.
didn't work.
Well, actually, it all depends who you're talking to. For some people, it works super well.
Well, it brought crime to the forefront. It was a violent and rough time. People died from
Absolutely.
bathtub gin, and
Yeah, absolutely. But Al
it was
Capone liked it.
yeah, he made a lot of money.
Yeah, he was great. Actually, other than the fact that he was a mass murderer, which we should gloss over. I'm kidding, by the way, of course. He was a really nice guy. He fed the poor. He fed the homeless. He took care of. He was really helpful to the poor people of Chicago when he wasn't busy killing them. He did.
Well, he didn't kill random people. He,
No,
you
no,
know,
no, of course not. Yeah,
he wasn't. Yeah, yeah. He and that I used to work with a couple of people who were connected when I was doing a lot of voiceover work, and they were always absolutely, completely, and totally loving and lovely to me. I don't know the details of the rest of their lives or what their families did or did not do. But to me, they were people I will treasure, even though they're both gone, Joe and Vic. Because to me, I show up at their house. They gave me my first car. They were going to get rid of an old car, and they gave it to me to drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco, my first car. They taught me how to drive. They were almost like surrogate parents in a way. So I would say I would rather be locked up in a room with a bunch of people in the mafia than Hillary Clinton. I would feel my chances are better.
Okay. Well, we won't dwell on that comment. And by no means are we condoning organized crime in any way,
No, we're
shape, or
just saying
form.
that there are individuals in that world who also don't have good hearts in relation to others.
Absolutely. And bad hearts in relation to others, of
Sure.
course. But yes, I agree with you that at least I know Al Capone, who was probably not the nicest guy in a lot of respects. Man, did he help the poor in Chicago. And
So
you
much.
could, yeah, and you could actually, as an individual, go up, let him know personally that you had issues with something, especially if you were a
Rent,
child,
whatever it was. Yeah.
you know. And so I'm not, I don't approve of Al Capone at all. I'm just saying that if the people in power who are almost doing what he did illegally, legally,
Right.
could have a tenth of his heart in terms of helping others that are they're not against, it would be a much better word. Now, I'm not suggesting that the whole world should be involved in the mafia. I'm
No,
just,
but politics is not so different than the mafia, as you pointed out. Um, it's not. Do you know Arthur Avenue in New York?
no, I don't.
Arthur Avenue in New York is a strip of a small neighborhood. They call it Arthur Avenue because Arthur Avenue is the biggest street. And it's Italian restaurants, Italian delis, Italian grocery stores, everything direct from Italy. Incredible food items, the best pastas, the best wines, etc. It is run by the mafia. Everyone knows it. Everyone has always known it. There is no crime in the neighborhood. None, because everyone knows who runs the neighborhood. They don't respect the police, but they respect the mob. And so I loved to go there to get a piece of pizza, to go dine. But the older people told me stories about during the Depression, if you had nothing, you come to Arthur Avenue, somebody feed you. Somebody feed you. Because all of the restaurants are owned by the family. And if you went to a restaurant, they wouldn't, hand you something from the back door. They would take you in, they would sit you down, they would give you a meal.
Yeah, yeah. Again, we are not condoning the mafia.
No, nor are we condoning the politicians.
No, no. But what I think what I'm trying to say is that there is good in an awful lot of people that don't appear to have good in them almost by definition.
I would agree with that. There are a lot of people that have good in them. I think most people have good in them if you can find a way to tap into it.
Yeah. As you all know, I haven't put in the papers yet with a notary, so it's not officially in the books yet. But as you all know, I've created Lycra Germany, and I'm very proud of that. And I would Lycra, of course, is the International League Against Racism and Anti-Semitism, and we are against. When I say we, I mean Lycra in general is against any form of discrimination for anyone about anything. Okay, our goal is to stop all forms of discrimination. Okay, and I think I'm coming in Germany at a very interesting time. At a time when we have never been closer to what we were in the 30s, and it's a little bit scary. It's
Yes, it is. And the California wildfires are a little bit scary.
that they are. I have, and I'm sure you do too, tons of friends who have been affected. Knock on wood, I still don't have any friends who've lost their houses, but I've had a
I
few who are coming close.
I was in touch with my nephew yesterday about his escape plan if it spreads much further.
Yeah, I have two friends who have escaped, um, but their houses haven't burned down yet, but they have escaped.
Well,
I
they were
have friends
wise to escape before the house burns down. I mean, that's the
by
time to
definition. Yeah.
escape. There was
Yeah.
a guy live on Twitter showing how the fire was approaching their house, and this putting it out there. We've decided to stay. They're surrounded by fire on three sides. We've decided to stay. What we did is we did mud embankments, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly we see the flames shooting down from his ceiling because a spark had caught the roof. And that was where the video ended. So apparently they thought better of staying.
Yes, I saw something like that where they were staying and then they left and you could see them running away. Probably not the same video because unfortunately, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of videos like that happening right now.
There are.
But I love the great understatement of I don't remember if it was which news channel it was. That doesn't matter. So you see a couple in front of their completely razed house, and the statement says so and so in front of their fire damaged house. I think the house is slightly more than just fire damaged. I mean, fire damage would be like, part of the roof, and here it's razed to the ground. I think it's fire destroyed.
Yeah, it is fire destroyed, and it's fortunate for a lot of Hollywood celebrities that P. Diddy's house burned down, because there was probably a lot of evidence there that hasn't come forward yet. That house is gone. Oh, completely, totally. There's not a shred left of that house.
Was it in a zone, or did it just accidentally burn down away from a fire?
It was semi in a zone, but there were two houses on each side of it that did not burn. So it is my belief that it might have been burnt on purpose, but I have no proof of that.
Okay, interesting. That was my first thought. But let us not speculate.
Well, I mean, feel free. Speculation is fun. And, someone said the other day that a conspiracy theory is nothing but a fact we won't hear about for 6 months.
Indeed. Indeed.
The way the world is going. But all right, let's go optimistic a little bit. The world has not gone that way yet, right? What can we do as individuals to compel our politicians to stop being murderous psychopaths? We've had a couple of resignations, which does give me hope.
Well, the interesting thing is that, of course, the masses are greater than the politicians by definition. But when you look at the fact that Trump was reelected, you start to wonder just how many of them, and you look at January 6th, 4 years ago, you start to wonder exactly how many of the masses would join you in a protest.
Well, protests don't do any good. So protest is going to have an impact on anything. Neither will a petition or a sign in your lawn. Those do not impact or move politicians. I mean, we saw what happened with healthcare, and I hate to advocate violence, but when one of the CEOs was gunned down in the street, suddenly the other insurance companies started approving more claims and changing their policies significantly. Do we gun down a few politicians in the street? Is that the solution? I don't know. But there's got to be a way to get to them. I prefer a nonviolent way, but I haven't found one yet, because they don't care about anything. They don't care about us. They don't care about our petitions. They don't care about, any of it.
Now, I am, of course, going to sit here and say that, of course, we do not gun down anybody, anywhere, ever. Okay? I mean, that goes without saying. Please do not start gunning down people, because
Not even Chuck Schumer?
don't gun down anyone, because no matter how awful these people may or may not be.
They're awful. There's no
Okay.
question.
Okay, they may be awful, but they have people who love them, they have families, and every time somebody dies, it affects their family and friends more than anything. So, among other things, we do not gun down anyone, okay? And Carl was, of course, joking when he said that. No. The official post is definitely that Carl was joking when he talked about gunning down people.
Well, what I'm saying is we know that is effective. What is effective short of that?
Anything.
Well, no, I said effective.
No,
Effective.
anything should be tried. And that should
Yeah,
not
what
even be
is
on the
anything
list.
is a general and vague statement. What specifically to get to these psychopaths? What specifically will do it? I mean, you probably heard the story that there was a member of the Senate that hadn't checked in for 6 months, and they found her living in a dementia care facility. She was still drawing a paycheck. No one. There's such a mess in DC that they didn't even notice that one of their people had disappeared for 6 months and not voted on anything, and she'd moved into elder care and was still an active senator according to the books. No one
Okay.
replaced her. No one did anything. I mean,
Well,
they're all going to die soon because they're ancient.
I'll tell you what does work, and that works extremely well. Better than anything ever. Vote.
And that doesn't work.
No, vote.
It's a uniparty. It doesn't matter which party you vote for. They're both psychopaths supported by one oligarch or another.
Well, vote. And you say it's a two-party. Yes, it is a two-party.
No, it's a uniparty. It's not a two-party. They pretend to be two parties. They work together behind the scenes to screw over the people of the world. They just pretend there's two parties.
But there usually is a third person, or for that matter, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or any other party was created at some point. It hasn't always existed. As a matter of fact, every day I read what happened that day, and yesterday was the day the Democratic Party of the United States was created some, I don't know, 100 years ago or something or other. Okay, so it's not always been there. So create another party.
Well, people have tried, but the uniparty squelches them, refuses to give them airtime, hides their candidates, doesn't allow them to debate, etc.
Well,
even Bernie Sanders, who ran as a Democrat, was destroyed by his own party because he was too popular and he had, quote, radical ideas.
It doesn't matter. Vote. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you an example. Okay, there was a French comedian, Coluche, whose real name was Michel Colucci, I think. Anyway, Coluche was a fabulous man, okay? And unfortunately, he died, I believe it was in 1987, in a motorcycle accident. He wasn't wearing a helmet, but that's besides the point. Okay, as a joke, pardon, frog and throat. As a joke, in the 70s, I believe it was, or early 80s, Coluche ran for president of France, okay? He had to withdraw because he was literally getting enough votes to be elected. And he did that as a joke. You know,
That's France.
Yes, but the point is, voting works. If you don't,
Assuming, and I would never assume this, assuming that the electronic machines don't change your vote, that the votes are tabulated correctly, that there's no cheating, there's always cheating. So, you know, I don't, I'm not going to say voting doesn't work if you vote for a third party and everybody unifies behind a candidate. I'm just saying that the uniparty is going to do everything possible to make sure that never, ever happens. And right now,
I
we can't,
disagree. I disagree. I
they do
disagree.
it all the time. They close down voting places in different neighborhoods when a candidate they don't like becomes popular.
Yes, but it will take time, but it will work.
I don't know that we have that time. I think we need a solution now to force the hand of the psychopaths running the world. You know,
Like you said yourself, Trump 1.0 was talked a lot, but it was all bark, no bite.
did very little. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Trump 2.0 will be the same.
If that is the case, and we'll know in about 10 days, then maybe some things will calm down and people will go, okay, 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 let's not go to World War III. The US isn't going to play. I hope that's the case. One thing I know about Trump in his first term, again, we never know with him because he's not a genuine person. He's a performer. In his first term, he said and acted in a very anti-war manner. He did not start any wars, and he's the first US president to not start a war ever.
So that's good.
That is good. But again, we can't trust he'll be the same because you can't trust anything with him.
Well, let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
If that's the case, what he said, again, this is just talk, and his talk doesn't mean a lot. What he said was he was going to talk to Netanyahu and end that mess over there. That's what he said. He said the same thing. I'm going to make Zelensky and Putin sit down and cut this out. That's what he said. Will he do it? I don't know. If he does what he said, then I may become a Trump supporter.
Okay, let's not overdo it here, okay? That will never happen to me. Okay, I'm so terribly sorry. I cannot ever think of doing that. Even if he ends world hunger or everything, what that man has done to the office of the President of the United States cannot be forgiven.
If he ends world hunger, I would absolutely forgive it.
Well, we have different opinions.
I mean,
But
that would be a big deal to me. I would say bravo, Trump.
I would say bravo, Trump. Doesn't mean I would support him.
I knew the man, as a caterer in New York. I didn't like him then, but who knows what he'll be like in this term? We don't know. It's all a wild card.
It's a completely wild card. We really,
Blank
really
slate
don't
wild
know.
card. Makes me want to eat bacon.
What I think will be interesting is the day that Musk and Trump come head to head, because one is kind of stepping on the other one's toes.
Yeah, again, it's the same thing with Elon Musk. He says a lot of things. I have not seen any action, but he's also not in a position to take any action. So we'll see. Saying things and doing things are very different. Going out there and making a tweet, okay, I read his tweets. I'm curious about what those ideas are. And actually getting something done are two very different things. So Musk is a talker as well. He may not be a doer at all. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm so sorry. I have just realized that my beloved husband has unplugged my laptop and the energy saver has just come on. So if you give me half a second,
Okay,
I shall turn
I
it
get back
on.
in.
There we go. Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. Oof, that was close.
Fortunately, my mic is plugged in and my computer's plugged in, and I'm sitting in a relatively quiet room.
Yes, well, I'm definitely in a quiet room. I'm going to shut this a little bit because it's getting a little bit too bright.
That is
But
a good problem to have in England.
yes, hey, second day of sunshine in a row.
That's terrific.
I mean, in a minute, we're going to have a hosepipe ban. Oh, guess who's joined me?
Oh boy, I'm wondering if I'm going to get a visitor now.
Yeah.
This is the first show where he hasn't insisted that he be on my lap for a portion of it, so we'll find out.
Oh, sorry, darling. To be fair, his food is on the table where I am. So
Okay, you don't put his food on the floor?
no, both his food and drinks are high up.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Okay,
Ask Adam.
okay, I
There's a
will.
faint possibility this cat may be slightly spoiled. You can't see this, but his drink is in a cup, and the cup sits on a tray all the time.
So he doesn't drink out of a water bowl?
No, he drinks out of a cup that says "Never without my cat," and
Okay.
that cup is on a tray. And when we travel, we take the cup and the tray.
With Milu, I carry his food bowl and his water bowl. And I learned something very interesting because we recently moved. I'm in a little room in someone else's house right now. And, Milu's food and water is in the kitchen. He also has an emergency water bowl in the bedroom, one of those collapsible ones, so I can give him water at night. And I put his food and water down the first day, and he looked at it. He didn't eat anything. I thought,
Oh, you mentioned that last week. Yes, that
right?
you needed to have the water
Water
on
has
the
to be on
left.
the left.
Yeah.
And it happened again today because they were moved around. I think possibly Irene was doing some kitchen cleaning. And before breakfast, I had to move them to the correct places. He's
Yeah.
very funny. So he's spoiled as well, apparently.
Yeah. So Cozy is still here, as you can see, eating his food. That's just behind my laptop. And his water is just underneath the television over there on the counter. I'm, of course, as usual, staying at the DoubleTree Hilton in Kingston, which has become a home away from home when we're in England. The only issue I have is trying to remember which room we're in because we're usually on the 7th floor. And so this time we're in 703. Last time we were in 705, and sometimes I get them mixed up. And I'm hoping that I got all my numbers right when I keep ordering food and drink.
Well, if someone else pays for it, no big deal.
Yeah, a little bit of a deal, actually.
Well, they'll know what room they bring it to. I've already booked for my 3 days in London in May because hotel prices just go up and up and up and up.
They really do.
And I got a deal in Paddington, which is my favorite neighborhood to stay in. There is a great fish and chips shop there.
Oh, that's nice. Which one? Is that the Seashell or something like that?
Seashells of Marylebone?
Yeah.
No. Seashells of Marylebone actually isn't my favorite. This one is run by if it's still there, I haven't been there for a long time. This one is run by an old Englishman. He was in his 60s the last time I was there, and he still fries the fish in beef fat and the chips in beef fat. and it's called Proper Fish and Chips. He doesn't have a Google page. I can't check him out. He never did. He wasn't going to cotton to any of that thing. But if you come out Paddington Station, the main entrance here, then you just go down the street to the right, little chippy shop in between a Boots and a grocery store.
Sounds good. Yeah, next time I'm in the neighborhood.
Um,
Today,
Mushy peas I also love.
yeah, that's true. And today I am meeting up with a friend, Clive Aragoni. I'm meeting up with Clive, and we are meeting up in Waterloo because he comes from North London and I come from Kingston. So we're meeting up in Waterloo and going to a restaurant. And
Nice.
I like to meet up when I come to London. He's a great guy. Lost his wife, who was an old family friend of ours. Lost her years ago to a brain aneurysm. So, as in, here now, gone now, you know.
Yeah, that happens to many of us. Oh, J.K. Rowling. I
Yes.
made a post on Twitter, when the first book came out, which was now in June. It's Not Always Murder. And J.K. Rowling liked that post yesterday. I had commented on something, so she obviously went through my feed and found it, liked it, and responded, just ordered a copy.
Oh, that's nice. Of course, as everyone knows,
Yeah.
she writes as Robert Galbraith. And to my utter amazement and delight, when going through my Kindle, I happened to notice that I had bought a Robert Galbraith a while back and I hadn't read it. I have a whole Robert Galbraith to sit down and read. It's amazing.
I read that whole series as well, and I thought it was excellent.
Because, yeah, they made one, the ink one, they made into a
television series.
Television series. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. The ink something. The ink Black Heart.
There were three stories that the TV series covered. So I believe it was three of them. And I saw the TV series. 7, I've only read 3. I've got 4 more to go.
Yeah, Cuckoo Calling, The Silkworm, Career of Evil, Lethal White, Troubled Blood, The Ink Black Heart, and The Running Grave, which is the one that I haven't read yet, I believe. So I downloaded
just for
The
those
Running
of you
Grave.
who haven't read them, they are dense, they are complex, they are long, they are brilliant. Brilliant writing. I don't write that way. I am a storyteller. Here's the story. I tell it. I am a brief writer. I'm 40 to 50,000 words. She's 200,000 words. It's a very different format for telling stories, pulp fiction versus the, I would call them literary novels of detective fiction, and they're incredibly well done.
I have to say that I love Robert Galbraith, and as you know, there are very, very few authors of fiction that I like. Okay, very few. I can't even name 5. But I love your books, and I'm not saying that to plug your books or anything like that. I love your books. They are really, I can really get into them. And I read your books the same way I read every book, which is the whole thing is imagined in my head. So when you say I woke up in my apartment, I can see the window, I can see the mirrors, the bed.
Yeah, I read the same way. Yeah,
exactly. So when he lands in the shower, I don't remember if you described the shower, but I saw the place as being gray with a glass door and gray floors, and anyway, that's what my mind does. And it's just reading your book is like going through an entire film, and it's wonderful. I really, there is no bit of it that doesn't make sense, you see, because if I read a book and something is skew with and it stops my images, then I get lost. Whereas when I read your books, it just flows through, makes sense, and it's a whole film in my head, and it works very well. And I love your books.
Well, let's see if she tweets me after she's read it.
Yeah, but I do. I really love your books. I just
I love writing them. I'm working on book 4 right now, and I don't know what's going to happen until I sit down. It's like I'm flowing in this river of creativity, and the muses speak to me. But for those of you who haven't read them, there's a man who time travels and takes advantage of the situation he finds himself in, and having a similar name to a detective in Chicago, to become a private detective, and he has absolutely no idea what he's doing.
Yes, but he has an advantage to all the other people, 2 advantages to a lot of other people. One, he has common sense and he's intelligent, okay, which is rarer than one thinks.
Yeah, this is true.
And 2, he does come from the 21st century, and therefore doesn't have the same mindset as the people in the 1950s.
Yeah,
And that's a huge advantage.
that is a huge advantage. So he does eventually get to a solution in the first cases that he's doing, but the time travel element in book 4 will not involve him.
Okay,
it will
as
involve
I've
him
proved,
teaching
I've
a
proved,
woman to get out of a bad situation by using the same technique.
I've proofread books 1, 2, and 3. I haven't seen book 4 yet, but I can't wait to see book 4. And I have to say that I did go while I was in London. I went to Foley's, I went to Waterstones, and I went to the one next to Waterstone on Piccadilly. Starts with an H. And I asked them all about your book, every one of them, and they're all on order. So I have to order them, which is exactly what I'll do. I will order several copies just so that I can. My dream is for you to put them on Kindle, but I'll order hard copies for everyone because they really are a delight. And I wanted to get them for Lyle first and foremost, because he really is loves books, and I know he would love those stories. So I'm going to get them.
I mean, I'm hard copy only right now. I will do a book on tape. The reason I'm not on Kindle is that, unlike Natasha, who loves Amazon, I am not a fan of Jeff Bezos and the way he treats his employees. And he's sort of like a modern day slave plantation owner in my mind.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
So I'm everywhere except Amazon. And as a result of that, I've got good coverage in Barnes and Noble on the East Coast in the US, but most everywhere else they have to be ordered. Although I heard from Tom at the gym, Holmes Place, that so many people in Berlin had ordered my book at Eastside Mall that the bookstore there has copies in stock. They ordered several others.
Good, good. That's very good. Now, I'm in England right now. Next Monday, I'll be back home, thank God. But I'm in England right now, so finding them is only by order.
Right.
But I need to order them for Lyle, who's in Baltimore. So I'll order them from Barnes and Noble and have them sent directly to his place.
They're short, fast reads. I call them airplane reading.
Yeah, but they're excellent. They're excellent. and I, we could be. I mean, I've told everybody here how much I love Robert Galbraith and Kathy Reichs, and
Right. Oh, I love
you know,
Kathy Reichs too. Yeah.
yeah, I just finished her last book. Um, but yeah, so I'm not plugging your books. It's a matter of fact. If they weren't you, I would still be plugging them. I should still be commenting on them because they are really good and they really pass the time really nicely.
So for those of you who are listening, if you want to order them, you can order them at any bookstore worldwide because they're set up to be print on demand in, I think, 35 countries. They come out of a tiny little press that's a subsidiary of another tiny little press, Vintage Pulp Press. And they're called It's Not Always Murder, which has 2 cases, part 1 and part 2. And then the second one is called You Can Get a Man with a Gun.
Yes, that absolutely. And I actually I just finished reading the third one, of course, because I keep sending you corrections.
Oh, The Firm Client and His Pelican Briefs.
Yes. So I've just finished reading that one because every time I see a mistake, I keep sending it back to you.
I have to add 8,000 words to that one. It's not long enough. I'm a very short form writer. This is the story. This is the story. There's nothing else. I don't describe the long blonde flaxen hair in 4 paragraphs.
Where could you add anything to that book? Maybe a little bit more of the party.
A little bit more of the Thanksgiving party, a little bit more of the party at the end. And it was suggested by my editor that we add in a couple of additional scenes and conversations between John and the mother of his child, because, the kid is almost 2. So there's things to talk about and decisions to be made. So I think, John and Vic have this, it will always be an ongoing relationship. They can't be free of each other. They have a child together.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. And also maybe a little bit more with the crazy woman.
Oh yeah, the crazy woman living in the SRO. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can develop her a little bit more and her
And
relationship.
her family.
Yeah. And now we're giving too much away. We're stopping talking about that. We're going to move on to the next topic because we've almost come to the end of our 2 hours. Amazingly enough, this show has been flying by.
Not that much. We still have half an hour.
I know that's almost 3/4 of the way through. Did Adam bring you breakfast this morning?
Now he did not. My breakfast, which was purportedly from Starbucks, was actually from the hotel downstairs. So it's not Starbucks coffee. Maybe it is Starbucks coffee.
It is
anyway.
Starbucks coffee. Yeah, they have deals with the hotels.
Yeah, so that was taken from the hotel downstairs. And then, here it is. I very sweetly went to the front desk and said, "May I have a cookie for my breakfast?" And they gave me a cookie because that's what DoubleTree does. When you check in, they give you a lovely chocolate chip cookie. Now, you're going to tell me that chocolate chip cookie does have sugar in it.
It does.
It does. Okay, it does. But I was kind of okay. I'm in England, so whenever I'm on a holiday, my entire diet goes out the window, especially Christmas. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. Throw my diet out the window, but I have now until I get back to Berlin. So there's not much I can do about it. But I have been eating sugar and here in England, and I have to say it makes me feel terrible whenever I do. So that's a lesson learned right there. So when I get back to Berlin, I've actually decided to even forego honey and have butter on my toast in the morning. If I get, like we were talking last time, if I get good quality salted butter with fleur de sel, then that's good.
Well,
So
I have a Metro account, so I can always get you French butter.
yeah, with fleur de sel is absolutely amazing. So yeah, so when I get back to Berlin, I will really forego sugar. But yesterday we
Well,
were at Paul and Liz's, and I have to say I ate everything in sight: chocolates, candied fruits, etc.
for the most part, I don't eat sugar year round because it can cause an attack of pancreatitis in me, and that is incredibly painful. I would make an exception every year for a piece of my mother's pie when I went to Minnesota. And, that was my sugar time. My mother doesn't bake anymore, so I'm pretty much sugar-free year round now. I'll have a square of chocolate every now and then, and that's about it. Um, I don't do sugar, but I haven't had any form of breakfast or lunch yet. But I had to change my eating schedule because of school. School goes from 3 to 6, and then I go to the gym after school. So I'm not back here until around 9 p.m. 9 p.m. is fine for dinner, but it's not fine for your first meal of the day. So now I have to eat something before I go to school. It'll probably be yogurt and fruit today because I, did the pomegranate the other night, and that's fast. I'm ready to go because I'm running a little late. But I have to eat something before I go to school. It's like when we were doing the radio show live in Berlin. I would have to eat something before the radio show because of the time we got home.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently, we still are on that radio now. I believe Dietmar.
Yeah, he runs our program every week. We were on a little station in Berlin, and we travel, and we kept asking for a solution to remote broadcasting. Natasha bought equipment to try to remote broadcast, which was really challenging and didn't always work correctly. And so it wasn't working. And so we went off the air until we were, asked to do a show by Expat Radio. And the moment we were asked to do the show by Expat Radio, Dietmar got very excited and suddenly was able to use the files that for 2 years he told us it was impossible. It's now possible.
Be nice.
No, I've already told him that. I've given him a hell of a hard time around it
Yeah.
because
So
he
much
told me
for
it was
being nice.
impossible. Yeah, no, a friendly hard time, but a hard time nonetheless. And
But actually, I would like to do my music show with that radio station again. And I will try and do it remotely again. But because I don't think I'm going to have time to walk to the radio station anymore, and I have all the equipment to do it remotely. But I'd love to do a music show there again.
then I'm sure you can. Yeah, they're always looking for programming. And I got a text from Dietmar because he listened to the show, and he said, "I don't know how you do it, but the sound quality is so much better with the recording than it is when you were in the studio."
Oh, that is weird.
No, remember that equipment was from about 1942, so it's not that weird.
This is my microphone. This is the
Right.
microphone that I use. So it's not 1942, but it's certainly not the best quality.
Well, this is what I use. I don't know if it's the best quality, but if I can be heard, I mean, I have a voice like a bass trombone, so I can pretty much always be heard.
Yeah, indeed. I have found that it's always better to have a low voice than a high voice.
I've had so many funny incidents about my voice over the years because people have told me I sound tall, or yeah, they meet me and they go, "Oh, you sound so tall."
Okay. Yeah, nonsense. But
Yeah, but they expect someone with a big voice and a deep voice to be large.
But you're not that short.
Oh, come on.
You're not that short. You're what, 5'6"?
5'4".
5'4". So you're not that
But
short.
sometimes my hair is a little poofy, so that helps.
There we go. Add 2 inches right there. Makes it you
Right there.
5'6". Yeah, just say you're as tall as what's his name, Tom Cruise.
I'm taller than Tom Cruise. I stood next to Tom Cruise in the popcorn line in New York for a film once, and I'm about an inch taller than him. He's about 5'3".
Officially 5'6".
Right, but he's 5'3". I mean,
But there we go. You're taller than Tom Cruise. What are you complaining
I'm
about?
taller than Mel Gibson. I'm taller than Tom Cruise, and I am the exact same size as George Stephanopoulos.
And what are you complaining about? Therefore, I am right. You're not that short.
I am that short, but they are too.
Yeah, whatever. You're not short. Be quiet. I am not going to have any pity for you. That's for sure.
Oh, I don't have any pity for me. I fit in coach comfortably. I'm not complaining about being short. It's a tremendous advantage. And at the grocery store, I just wave tall people over who are always happy to get things for me. In Germany, it's filled with tall people. So I never have any problem, and sometimes meet my neighbors that way.
Indeed. Indeed. Oh, you have lovely owls on your wall.
I do. And what's interesting is, when you move into a place and you're sharing, it's different because I've lived on my own since I was 16 years old, right? Um, I My mother has collected owls her entire life. She has an enormous collection of owls. And when I got here and I saw the owls, there's also 3 in front of me. I thought, okay, this was a good move. My mother's spirit is blessing the place, even though she's still alive. The owls were sort of a symbol for me, and it's been absolutely fine. No issues whatsoever. We keep very different hours, so we're not always on each other's toes. They're coming home. I'm going to school. I'm out. I'm back. They're going to bed. So there isn't a lot of conflict. It's become a really easy way to live.
And are you coming back in May?
Yeah.
Yeah. End of May or beginning of May?
Let me see. May 1.
Oh, okay. So slightly beginning of May.
Right. I have to book the return ticket for me and the chimp over here. But yeah, May 1st.
So you're going to London from Berlin?
I am going to Paris from Berlin and London from Paris because PJ is in Paris. And PJ, I'll get him as a guest on an upcoming show. I didn't know that he'd ever been an expat. He's a Parisian, born and bred, but he also had experiences as an expat in the USA. So that could be interesting.
Well,
neither one of us experienced that.
So I have asked friends, not because they're friends, but because they have a lot of experience as expats. I have asked Liz and Colin, either one of them to be on the show because they have gone through a lot of issues with French red tape as expats. And I figured that they would be quite helpful. They're from England and have lived in France for years now and have had to go back and forth with red tape issues. So I thought they would be quite helpful on the show. And I've asked Michelle and Grady because they are expats both in France and in Mexico. And
you also asked David Tabazel?
I've also asked David Tabazel, who lived first in Guernsey for a few years, and then in Marbella for quite a long time, and was moving to Switzerland at one point, but that fell through. So he has a lot of experience in with expats, but he's also, if you Googled him,
I did.
there we go, darling. There we go, baby love.
He's making his appearance.
Indeed. So if you know, he is a very interesting person to have on the show.
I
And
agree, and he's got some food project ideas that I want to find out about. I would be very interested in
oh,
knowing about those.
he did Food Jug, the forerunner, or something like that, which was the forerunner to YouTube. Video
No, but he's
Jug.
got something else that he plans on doing with food. He's announced plans
Uh,
for.
yes,
So
but
I'm
he
interested to see what
started.
that will be.
Yes, he started Video Jug, which was the forerunner to YouTube and
Right.
things like that. He's really a great guy. Adam's known him for 40 years, something like that, more
Okay.
45 years. He was best man at our wedding, but he's a wonderful,
Oh,
wonderful, interesting man, and a very, very kind man. And
I'm going to send him an email today and see when he's free to do the show.
yeah, he would have joined us today, but he's unfortunately has
Sick.
yeah, he's really sick right now. And that's Adam's just gone to see him, as a matter of fact. Adam came in, dropped his glove, and went out to see him. So that's what, yeah. So Adam's seeing him, I'm seeing Clive, and then tonight we're going back to the Herne Road, which is where we lived for 20 years in England, to go and see our
Right.
friends there. But yeah, so these are all people who happen to be my friends. But I mean, Colin was a rocket scientist. Grady was part of a band and then became a record producer, producing things like the Rolling Stones and things like that. He bought a castle in France, the castle of the original name escapes me, but eventually it'll come back to me. So he bought the Chateau de Grignol, and when he bought it, it was a shell, and he redid the whole thing. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's really, really lovely place. So these are all people who have quite a bit of experience with red tape and expat situation, because he also has a place in Mexico.
Okay. Mexico, I hear, is relatively easy compared to other places.
Oh, I'm sure it is. They've got to do something right. Actually, I say this, but of course, Mexico's a
I don't
wonderful
know.
place that I adore.
Mexico City to me is a dream. I just adore it. I mean, I mean, it's European in a sense, with this incredible architecture, lovely people, and cheap tacos on the street everywhere.
Absolutely. And yeah, we talked about Mexico City already, and yes, really love it.
I
Absolutely.
could live off Mexico City street food. It's so incredibly delicious, and much of it is actually quite healthy.
Yes, well, we did actually when Lyle, Rob, and I did our trip through Mexico. We went from city to city on the night bus, so it was done extremely low budget, and all our food was from the luncherias next to the bus stops, and
Yeah.
we never got sick. You know, I mean, literally, when we were eating tacos, there's the pig's head right there, and they would take chunks from the pig's head to put in the taco, and miraculously, we never got sick.
I have a challenge with certain oils, canola and soy being the two chief among them. And I would just point to the oil and ask them not to put, my tortilla on that. And they would clean the grill, a piece of the grill, and just warm it on an unoiled piece of grill for me, just to prevent those challenging digestive issues. I really loved Mexico. I love the food. I love the people. I love the architecture. Everywhere I've gone in Mexico, I've been really, really happy to visit.
Yeah,
Highly
absolutely.
recommended.
Absolutely. I got to Mexico City flying in from the south, and I was getting a flight from Mexico City to Tijuana, and I was short. I didn't have enough money. And that was the end of my trip. My last flight was Mexico City to Tijuana. And I burst into tears. I mean, I was all alone in Mexico City. Both Lyle and Rob had gone somewhere else. I was, what, 20 at a push. And in Mexico City, all by myself. The guy says, "You don't have enough money to go to Tijuana." Lost it, burst into tears. And the guy looked at me and he said, "Here's your ticket." He gave me the ticket. I gave him what I had. He gave me the ticket.
Well, I was in one of those horrible lines to get back from Mexico or Tijuana to San Diego. I
Yeah.
had gone, and I was told, leave your car in San Diego. It's easier that way. Walk through and then go back and pick up the rental car. So I was standing in line, and these people were offering for, very few pesos to get you to the front of the line. And I wasn't sure how that would work, but it was cheap enough. I thought I would try it. So I give it to this guy. He walks me around the line, takes my arm and walks me to the front. There was a special family entrance. He hands me an empty baby carriage that's all covered up with a doll in it. So it looks like there's a baby in there, and put me in the family line, which was 2 families. I went through, and then on the other side, someone takes the carriage back.
Well, we were in California in a rental car. And when we got the rental car, it was very specific. Whatever you do, do not go into Mexico with the rental car. Okay. I mean, they were dead set. So we got to the Chula Vista exit, and I said, "Oh no, if you were going to Mexico, it's the next one." Well, the next one was going through the border. So I goofed. So we cross the American line, we get to the Mexican line, and there's a little thing on the side, like if you have things to declare to go into Mexico, you park there. So we went there, we parked, and I explained to the guy what we had done, that I'd messed up. It was my fault. We went through, and we're not allowed to go through with the car. And, I don't know what to do. I was lost, not in terms of geographically, but in terms of what to do. And the gentleman went out, and he shut the gate for all American cars coming in, and he shut the gate for all cars coming out of Mexico, opened the gate between the two, and we went through that gate and back into the United States. So we single-handedly closed the entire border just because I goofed.
But what that shows you is that some public officials care to be helpful.
Yeah, actually, an enormous amount of public officials, and strangely enough, not strangely enough, actually, but for some people, unexpectedly enough, in Mexico, I found that public officials were incredibly helpful.
I found people in general in Mexico to be incredibly helpful. I was lost at one point in Tijuana. I stopped into a pharmacy. I figured he was more likely to speak some English. He did. He didn't just say, "Go here." He took me out and walked me where I needed to be.
Yeah.
This is where you catch the bus. Okay, thank you so much. And I thought that was really, really kind.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of I love Latin countries. I mean, in Chile, they were amazing.
I love Chile. I love Argentina. I even like Panama.
Yeah. In Brazil, we had a small incident with the taxi driver who I screamed at in Spanish, and believe me, he understood every word. But other than that, yeah, traveling.
Have you been to Costa Rica?
No, but as you know, my daughter just traveled through South America, and I was just slightly apprehensive. She went to Peru and Chile, and I was slightly apprehensive. And in actual fact, they were great. She lost her luggage, but she was only staying in Lima for like 48 hours, and they said it would take days for her luggage to get there. So I called Lima Airport and had it sorted in less than an hour. She got her luggage that evening.
Great.
If you call and speak and explain, they say okay, and they go out of their way to help. I'm afraid that there's a
I
lot of other places I would have
like Lima.
called, and
I like Lima. It's not my favorite city, but it is connected to some beautiful beaches.
yeah, she went. She took the Inca Trail,
Okay,
so she went the other way.
I did not do that. But Lima it was very nice. Buenos Aires was heaven. It was a level above.
Amazing, amazing place. Amazing. It has more beautiful Viennese cafes than Vienna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really does. The streets are gorgeous. The people are gorgeous. The food is gorgeous. I loved everything about Buenos Aires.
absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I could
Yeah,
not agree with you more.
yeah.
Yeah,
There are many parts of Latin America I liked, but I think Buenos Aires and Mar del Plata, which is where my wife was from, are my two favorites. Mar del Plata is on the coast, so it's right on the beach. It's a beach community, a big beach community, and it is just incredible. But it's still very old fashioned. The fruit and vegetable sellers may also be the farmers or the brother of the farmer. Everything still is family and quite well oriented, which brings me to a funny point about my Spanish class. The teacher was asking us to make a family tree, and you put your cousins and their names and their ages and their professions. And I had to tell her I didn't know any of their professions. I didn't know any of their ages. I wasn't even sure where most of them lived, because in Spain, family is family.
yeah,
You know everyone and everything, but she was dealing with two Brits, an American, and a German, and most of us didn't know these things. My cousin, I don't know, he's maybe a couple years older. I don't know. We really didn't know, but she knew all of it. Oh, when is your cousin's birthday? My cousin, she's born here, she's born here. She knew all of that information at the drop of a hat, and none of us did, which
yeah,
shows the cultural differences.
yeah. As you know, I'm half Croatian, and so family is family. I have my entire family tree. I mean, as you saw on Facebook, I just put 4 wedding photos: my great grandmother, my grandmother, my parents, and ours on Facebook. I have cousins on my family tree that are actually cousins of my cousins, so they're not actually blood related to
Wow.
me. And of course, my second cousin, once removed, and things like that are as close to me as my actual cousins are. You know,
I can't say that. As a matter of fact, I have two cousins, and I like them very much. Kathy is one of them, and I often send her blue sky pictures on Facebook. She loves to see blue skies and black and white shots. Kathy Laverty, and I've only met her twice in my life. When she was 16 years old, we went to visit, and then we went to visit again, and she wasn't there at the time. I think she was away at college, or and then I didn't see her again until about a year before I moved to Berlin, so about 11 years ago. I arranged with one of my more distant cousins a surprise brunch, so that I could, see them again. Um, they had gone from teenage girls to older women, which was expected, but we just were never the kind of family that saw our cousins. I have two cousins I've never met.
Wow. Okay. If you take both of my grandparents from Croatia, okay, and so let's take their parents. So my great grandparents on both sides in Croatia, I have their entire descending family tree.
Wow.
Okay,
That's
from both
amazing.
sides, from the Bujas side and from the Benishek side. I have their entire, all of their children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, sometimes great great grandchildren. I have the entire family tree. On the Benishek side, I stop at my great great grandparents, but on the Bujas side, I go all the way to Petar Bujas, who was born in 14 something. On my mother's side, on one side, I go back to the early 1800s or maybe the late 1700s. And on the other side, I go back to the early 1700s. And I think I have well over 2,000 people on my family
Um,
tree.
I have a cousin in Paris, and he's a first cousin. One of them moved to the U.S. My cousins were raised in Paris because my Aunt Jean and her husband ran the American commissary in Paris during World War II. And so when I went to Paris, recently when I was doing, setting up food tours there, I contacted him and I said, look, we've never met. I'm Nancy's son. I'm in Paris. I'm going to be here for a while. I would love to meet. And he wrote back, what would be the point? You are a stranger to me.
Oh, well, that's sweet, isn't
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
So
Whereas,
those two have never met any of their U.S. family and have no desire to. They don't want to know them. They are French. They're not you.
okay.
They were born in
Whereas
France.
I am friends on Facebook with all of my first cousins. Obviously, it goes without saying. All of my second cousins and a few of my third cousins.
I am friends on Facebook with 3 of my first cousins, and I think I have 25 first cousins.
Okay, so all of my first cousins and most of their children, all of my second cousins and most of their children, and I'm not friends with their grandchildren because they're babies, so they don't have Facebook accounts. And some of my third cousins. So yeah.
Wow. All right. We are down to our final minute, Natasha. The time has flown today.
Again,
We
as
started
usual.
off on World War III and we end with family.
Yes, but family is important because if World War III happens, I can call one of them and say, okay, can I come to yours? And they'll say, of course.
Well, I have cousins that I could call and would say that, and I have cousins that I could call and they would say, no. Who are you? Oh, Nancy's kid. Yeah, whatever. So I have a mix, but that's okay. We just, families are raised in different ways. We never had family reunions. I've suggested them to try to get people together and meet everyone. No one else is interested, so it never happens.
Yeah. I have messenger accounts with all of my family. It's called the Bujas family, and there's 50 people on it.
That would make me insane. All right. We need to say goodbye to our
Goodbye,
listeners.
everyone.
We will be on in these next few weeks with several guests that we're lining up. So make sure you tune in.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening.